Have you ever met a woman so beautiful that you become convinced that she's an angel? You try to look for character flaws but cannot find any. All men want her, and all women respect her. Well, that was Ihuoma, who lived in Omokachi village. She was blessed with beauty and character. It appears she was born under a lucky star, as she also lucked out in getting a husband. Emenike was a handsome man. He was a great wrestler and excelled in all aspects of life. Together, they were the power couple of the village. One day, as Emenike is taking a stroll, he comes across his rival, a guy called Madume. Now, Madume was the opposite of Emenike. He was lazy, wasn't a very good wrestler, considering he was a huge guy and looked very strong. He also wasn't the best looking guy and had an anger management issue. He was violent and beat his wife and daughters. The people in the village really didn't like him much. So he gets into an argument with Emenike regarding ownership of some land. He thinks that that land was supposed to be his and everything, which belongs to Emenike. Now, this argument continues and becomes a brawl. They start wrestling and fighting and everything. They wrestle for some time, and it looks like Emenike is getting the best of Madume. But Emenike lets his guard down, and Madume grabs him and flings him to the ground. Emenike lands on his back and he hits it on a tree trunk, and he passes out. Now Madume is scared because even though he really doesn't like Emenike that much. He doesn't want to kill him. And killing him, you have to do all these rites. Remember, he doesn't have money to do all those things, so he runs away thinking that he's killed Emenike. Fortunately, Emenike doesn't die, and he wakes up after a while, but he's brutally beaten. So yeah, he walks back home. Even his wife, Ihuoma, she's like, "Yo, were you fighting with a leopard or something?" Yeah, so he's pretty badly beaten and everything. So he has to take some time, to recover and everything. Good thing is he has Ihuoma, who nurses him. She takes care of him. She really loves him. So she takes care of him, tries to get him all the help that he requires. They also get some traditional healers, try to take care of him as his condition is not that very good, but he eventually gets better. So, in this village, there's traditional healers. There's one called Anyika, who's like, he's like the daily guy who people go to. There's also another one called No Kiroro. Now, this guy is like the OG when it comes to, like these rainmakers and medicine, man. There's a lot of myths and legend behind him. So he's very well respected. So this guy says that because of how Emenike has come back to health and everything, he has to make a sacrifice to Amadioha. Amadioha is the most respected god in these parts of the world at that time. So Emenike obviously has to go with a few elders and everything to go and make this sacrifice to Amadioha, and he has to carry a few things like a chicken, a male chicken, a cock. These different things that they have to go to the shrine to make these sacrifices. Emenike goes ahead. He goes with a few elders. He goes to the shrine. Funny thing, once this meat is boiled and everything, No Kiroro takes some chicken wing and he throws it into a corner. And some snake just comes out of the corner, eats the chicken wing, and just goes back to the corner. Like, no, that's like not creepy at all. No Kiroro is like, he's the guy. He's the guy. They do this thing and leave. Now, somehow, like a few weeks later, Emenike dies. We're told that he died of lock chest, which some people attribute to the fight that he had with Madume, but not much is told. Ihuoma is like completely devastated. She's very young. She's a widow at a very young age, and she has young kids. But since she's young and beautiful, she still has a lot of suitors. So life, she has to continue, but she's not really quick to move on or anything. Remember Madume? Well, he's one of the suitors that really wants Ihuoma. Well, actually, he didn't like Emenike because he believes that Emenike took Ihuoma from him. Even though they really never had any Ihuoma, she doesn't see him in that way. But he somehow thinks that this guy took this girl from me. So now he's like, this is my chance to get Ihuoma. He tells his wife, I want Ihuoma to be my second wife. His wife really doesn't like that idea. Yeah, she's not really even a bad person or anything. She's just like, yo, cut that out. He's already lazy. He doesn't do most of the work. His wife does most of the work. Even getting a second wife, I was even going to be able to manage that. So he goes ahead and confesses and tells Ihuoma and proposes. Ihuoma really is like, no, I don't want none of that. So this guy really becomes bitter. And now instead of moving on, he now starts harassing her. The whole issue with the land again, he goes back to it and really starts harassing it. It gets to a point where Ihuoma's brother-in-law, who is Emenike's brother, his name is Nadi, who's been now taking care of Ihuoma. It's part of tradition. But he has to look out for her and everything. He gets even into a confrontation with Madume. Yeah, so it becomes a whole thing. Now, as this thing escalates, Madume goes to cut down all the plantains in Ihuoma's farm. Now, when he's cutting down the plantain, a cobra spits in his eye. And he has to stop that, obviously, and he becomes blind. Now he goes back home, his wife is like nursing him, and you'd think that you try to get on your wife's good side and the daughters, but instead he even becomes meaner to them. So what do? They leave him, obviously, yeah, because you're already a lazy to begin with, and now you're blind. We have to do everything for you, and you're still mean to us. So they leave him. So Madume eventually hangs himself, and that's the end of that guy. Yeah, not much around him since now he can't even be buried properly because of the way that he's died. So people forget about him. Moving on, Ihuoma also had other suitors, and one of the guys was Ekwueme. Now Ekwueme is like he's a pretty like guy. He's a hunter and also a musician. His best friend is a guy called Oduakiri, who's like the village clown, and he's also a musician. So it's a pretty. He's also friends with Nadi, who's Ihuoma's brother-in-law. He's a bit well like. Now, Ekwueme is betrothed to be married to a girl called Ahurole, who's from the village that Ihuoma's from. But he's throughout this whole year he's been like helping out at Ihuoma's place. He's trying to step up, show her, I can be the guy now since Emenike is not in the picture. And so he's been around. So he tells Ihuoma. Ihuoma also has feelings for him. So it's not like a one-way thing. She sort of likes him, but she doesn't want to leave the compound, Emenike's compound. She's still getting over all that. But Ekwueme is, he's persistent, and he eventually he wins her over. But they're not really like a couple or anything. But people know that this guy really wants him. His parents find out that he wants her. And now his parents are against that idea. It's like, yo, you're a young guy. You shouldn't be getting married to a widow. You're already supposed to be married to somebody else. So they try to rush the whole process. So they rush so he gets married to Ahurole. Ahurole, when she comes to live with Ekwueme, they get into a lot of arguments. He doesn't like her cooking. He's always looking out for flaws in her because she's not Ihuoma. Ihuoma's the one that he wants. So he's always looking, at her flaws and everything. They continue getting into arguments. It even leads one day where he slaps her, which is not like him. That's not really something that he should be doing, even according to their customs. So she runs away. Ahurule is wondering what's up. She thinks that because he's still in love with Ihuoma, there's no way that they can be together. So Ahurole's mom tells her, hey, there's this thing that we can do. We can get a love potion, and he'll be crazy in love with you. And I know a guy. So you see, people like Anyika and all these are the medicine men from the village. They're like, no, we don't do that kind of stuff. That's not a thing. So but her mom is like, yeah, I got you. I know a guy. I know a guy. So she goes, gets this thing. Ahurole puts it in Ekwueme's soup. So when she does that, thinking that he'll be crazy in love with her, he doesn't fall in love with her. He just becomes crazy. He's basically like a madman, fucking around, hiding in the village and everything. People have to look for him. So Woduakiri thinks like, where can we find this guy? He finds him like one of his traps where he usually sets his traps for when he's hunting. So they find him, and he doesn't want to speak to anybody. He only wants to speak to Ihuoma. So Ihuoma is called. He gets down. He starts going to Ihuoma. Ihuoma, like, he only does what Ihuoma tells him to do. So his parents see this, and they're like, yo, this lady, yeah, she's really nice. We really don't know how to repay her because she's really brought our son back. He was on the brink of insanity. He was basically crazy, and now he's back. They really want to repay her and everything, but Huoma is, I'm just doing it for a friend. I like this guy. He's a good friend of mine. So the parents sort of start saying, yeah, maybe this guy should actually be with Ihuoma. Ihuoma is good for him. So they try to see how can we do it even though she's a widow. Anyika tells them a story that Ihuoma she's actually a sea queen who's married to a sea king. So she's not supposed to marry any other man. She can be like a concubine, a girlfriend, all these other things, but she can never marry any other man. So that's the issue that's there. Now, what do? They try to look for options. They go to another medicine man from another village. He tells them, yeah, basically that's it. That's it. This lady cannot be married to anybody else, but I can plead with the sea king. So what we have to do this sacrifice and go and try to offer these sacrifices in the river to like at midnight to the sea king, and things will be good. So this whole thing goes on. They plan the whole thing. They tell Ekwueme. Ekwueme is a bit hesitant. It's a bit weirded out by the whole thing. Why do we have to do all these things? Go to like on a boat at midnight and like go to the middle of the river where like a chicken has to be strangled and thrown into the river. The medicine man now from that other village tells him, it's gonna be alright. Don't worry. So they go through the whole process. Now they're preparing for the marriage and everything, and be living together. It looks like everything is going well. Things are looking okay now. As they're home talking, Emenike is moving around, going to another room. He feels something like a pain. When he looks down, there's an arrow in his stomach, and guess where that arrow has come from? So one of Ihuoma's son, whose name is Nuona, has been practicing to be a hunter. So he's hunting this colored lizard, and when he's shooting, it accidentally hits Ekwueme in the stomach. They tried all the best they can, but unfortunately, Ekwueme passes on. Yeah, and basically, to the reader and to most people, that's like a confirmation of nobody is supposed to marry Ihuoma, no matter how much you love her. You just cannot marry her, and that is Elechi Amadi's The Concubine.